My God, look what the people in Iran are saying. It is not what Nazenin Ansari is saying outside. It is, and over 36,000, 43,000, we still don't know, have given their lives.
For them, pro-Palestine movement is the right movement, and pro-freedom of Iran, anti-Islamic Republic movement is the wrong movement, okay?
As soon as there's any kind of intervention, I fear it's going to be, this is the US and Israel attacking Iran, and we have to save Iran by saving the regime somehow.
And where the Iranians at home have had to retreat to indoors, their compatriot here out in the diaspora have taken the mantle, and they are echoing the cry, and that is what is making Europe change. And they are the ones that are really, because of technology, but it is one nation having found its voice together.
People are doing whatever they can. It is coming from their heart, and I think eventually it's going to work.
Hi there, this is episode 411 of Roqe. The anger is justified. For those of you, especially non-Iranians, who are wondering why your Iranian friends seem sad or depressed or exhausted or frustrated or angry, it's all justified. The anger is justified. This week, when a global beauty brand founder posted a story that many Iranians heard as sympathy for the Islamic Republic regime, the response was swift: boycotts, outrage, rejection, and a familiar question popped up in my comments. Why are these people so angry? So let's answer that. The anger is justified because this isn't about one comment or one brand or one moment. It's about 47 years. 47 years of repression, 47 years of executions, prisons, censorship, stolen futures. The anger is justified because generation after generation of Iranians have grown up under a regime that criminalizes dissent, punishes women for existing, and treats basic human rights as a threat to national security. The anger is justified because in just the past few weeks, Iranian civilians, protesters, have been massacred in the streets, and instead of global outrage, many Iranians have watched the deaths minimized, reframed, or quietly explained away. Atrocity denial, moral hedging, shrugs. The anger is justified because when thousands are killed and the response is, let's wait for more clarity, or worse, silence, the anger is justified because Iranians are repeatedly told that their voices don't really matter, that despite millions chanting a name in the streets, despite overwhelming diaspora support, others will decide who is acceptable, who is legitimate, who is allowed to lead, not the people risking their lives. The anger is justified because this revolution is constantly misrepresented as a foreign project, as if Iranians are puppets, as if decades of resistance, sacrifice, and blood can be reduced to the CIA or Israel pulling strings. The anger is justified because sadness turns into grief, grief turns into frustration, frustration turns into rage, especially when the world refuses to listen. So if your Iranian friends seem sharp right now, if they seem raw, if they seem unwilling to be polite or patient or grateful or half understanding, understand this: the anger is not random. It is not performative. It is not excessive. The anger is informed. The anger is earned. The anger is justified. And it's long past time the world stopped asking why and started asking, what are we going to do about it? It's January 29, 2026. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 411 of Roqe, Iran Rises. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto. Salam Dustan Aziz, Durud bar Shoma. Hope you are doing okay wherever you are tuning in from around the world. This is the 8th episode in our Iran Rises series. We've come to the end of the first month of this revolution inside Iran. This episode is entitled The Anger is Justified. And once again, events inside Iran and around the Iranian diaspora are moving at a breakneck speed. So we should note that we are recording this episode at approximately 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in Toronto on this Thursday, January 29th. It's around midnight in Iran. And as always, we're sharing perspectives and conversations as up to date as humanly possible. So we have a stellar panel to get to today, including Nazenin Ansari in London and Sadeq Bigdeli here in Toronto. But first, a word about this weekend. This is a note to Iranians all around the global diaspora and any non-Iranians that want to join and support us. This weekend is very likely going to be the largest mass demonstration of Iranians supporting the revolution in Iran around the world. In different cities, this is the largest that anyone has ever seen. Here in Toronto, I can imagine we're going to break a record for crowd size, and the demonstration will take place at 1 p.m. on Sunday at Yonge and Dundas in Toronto. But also, here are the demonstrations taking place on Saturday and Sunday around the world. Listen for your city name and please try to join. So on Saturday, January 31st, here in Canada, Halifax, Saskatoon, and Windsor. In Australia, Wollongong, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide. In New Zealand, Auckland and Christchurch. Klagenfurt in Austria, Brussels, in Denmark, Aalborg, Copenhagen, and Odense. In the UK, Cambridge and Manchester. In Finland, Vaasa. Strasbourg, there'll be a demonstration. In Germany, Berlin, Dusseldorf, Frankfurt, Hamburg, Hanover, Karlsruhe, Nuremberg, and Stuttgart. There'll be a demonstration in Budapest, in Rome, The Hague, Norway, Bergen and Oslo and Stavanger, in Glasgow, in Sweden, Malmo, Karlstad, and Gothenburg, as well as Stockholm. And in the United States, New York City, Los Gatos, Irvine, San Francisco, Hartford, Wichita, Boston, Austin, Dallas, Nashville, and Bellevue. On Sunday, this Sunday, February 1st, here in Canada, I mentioned the big one in Toronto we have, as well, Calgary, Charlottetown, Edmonton, St. John's, and Vancouver. Melbourne will have a big demonstration on Sunday, as will Tokyo, Vienna, Sheffield in the UK, Belfast, Linköping in Sweden, and in the United States, Great Neck, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, Orlando, Atlanta, and Houston. Remember, every time you think or ask, what can we do to help the people of Iran? Well, this is the least we can do. Support the revolution with your voices and your presence. See you this weekend. All right, let's get to our panel. All right, let's get to our panel. She has spent decades chronicling Iran with clarity, with courage, with historical memory, long before Iran was trending and long before it was convenient. As the editor of Kayhan London and Kayhan Life, she has been one of the most consistent, serious voices documenting the Islamic Republic's abuses, its internal power struggles, and the long arc of Iranian resistance. Nazenin Ansari joins us from London, and he is a Toronto-based lawyer, but his work and his voice reach far beyond the courtroom. Over the past few months, he has emerged as a clear and uncompromising advocate for Iranian human rights, challenging disinformation, calling out legal and moral evasions, and translating outrage into arguments grounded in law and principle. He represents a generation of diaspora professionals who refuse to stay silent, using their expertise not just to interpret the rules, but to question who those rules are really protecting. Sadeq Bigdeli joins us from Toronto. Hello to you both.
Hello, Jian. It's very nice to be back on your program. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Jian, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Sadeq. Thank you, Nazanin. A question to begin for both of you, and I think this is the first time you've both been on since this revolution has begun. We're basically at the end of the first month from when those merchants, those brave souls began demonstrating in Iran and set the fuel for this revolution. Tell me what you're most thinking about this week and this day at the end of the first month of this revolution. Sadeq.
Yeah, so I'm primarily occupied with the legal project that I have. I personally feel that I have a responsibility to pursue justice for all of these thousands and thousands of my compatriots that were brutally murdered by the Islamic Republic, and immediately my mind focused on what we need to do as the Germans under the Nazi regime similarly brutally murdered did. So we are with a group of volunteers working day and night to create the biggest database of the perpetrators of these criminals. And that is the way that I personally feel that I can get some sleep at night, because I know that we will bring these people into justice. It is in line with the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi's mandate that we need to put these people into justice, and every one of them will be basically brought to justice. So that is one of the things that I keep myself busy with. I see that day where these people, wherever they're found, they're going to be in court and they're going to be held responsible.
Sadeq, what are the most effective legal tools available? Like the UN, the International Criminal Court, domestic courts? What are we talking about?
So there are two things. One is that obviously every night I personally go to bed thinking that tonight is the night where the help is coming, because this is a promise that specifically the US president made to the Iranian people. And it is in line with my understanding of international law, responsibility to protect. People make the mistake of thinking that it all needs to go to the UN Security Council, in which we obviously know that there are two powerful nations holding veto powers, so nothing is going to work through the UN Security Council. Russia and China would never allow. I mean, there are the culprits actually, and the accomplice. So the US has not only the right, but the responsibility to come to the rescue of Iranian people who are basically being, I would suggest, they are being enslaved. This is the condition of slavery, that you cannot go out, you cannot speak up. It's complete arbitrary and random arrest, in addition to summary executions, horrible situations like an Auschwitz-like situation we have in a lot of factory warehouses where all these people are being arrested. They are dying in torture and very horrible conditions. And all of that obviously on the top of the fact that the number of people killed on those, especially on those 2 days, January 8 and 9, outnumbers any other similar situation in the history of modern world. Even the Holocaust was so horrible that it was. This is bigger in terms of the daily number. So the situation, legally speaking, and in terms of an immediate solution, is definitely some sort of a military intervention in which the repressor regime and the repressive forces would be basically diminished, so that people could finish the job with the national leadership of the Crown Prince, because that's the only way that we could have the peace of mind that this situation would not spiral into the chaos that the Islamic regime wants it to be. And so that is my hope.
Okay, there's a lot there that I want to ask you about. Let me bring in Nazenin, though, first. Nazenin, I was asking what's most top of mind for you at the end of this first month of the revolution. But first, do you want to chime in on what Sadeq has just said about legal recourse?
Certainly, Sadeq was very correct in pointing out the level of atrocity. What we have seen in 2 days taking place, January 8 and 9, is horrifying. Certainly, we received an audio message from a physician saying that, yes, you are just looking at 2 days, but you have to pay attention that these killings took place 8 hours a day. That is over 16 hours, which makes it even more horrifying. And if we want to really compare it to what happened to October 7th, for example, 2023 in Israel, Hamas killed 1,200. Every day in Iran, either January 8 and 9, it was 8 times that number. If we want to, take into consideration, for example, Israel's campaign in Gaza, it would have taken them 2 years to reach the level the number of killings that we calculated over 2 days, 48 hours. And it is that sense of giving perspective to foreign media, which is very important, especially in the UK. As you know, during the Israel Hamas Palestinian crisis, they were brandishing about numbers all the time, from the Hamas Palestinian authorities, but the Hamas leadership. Whereas here in certainly in the UK, we haven't seen that, and it seems to be a double standard. But at the same time, because as Kayhan London and Kayhan Life, we have to throw the spotlight on all the activities that are taking place, not only inside, but also in the diaspora. And this time, what we see, it has been phenomenal. And at the same time, on the other side, I have taken the initiative with four other women, Nazenin Bunyadi, Dr. Shirin Ebadi, Ladan Burumand, and my very good friend Shahrzad Semsar de Boissesson. We published a letter in the Figaro magazine asking for what the West can do to help this Iranian uprising. And also in Politico just a day or two ago, asking the European Union that it is about time to put the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, on the terror list. And obviously, one last thing that Sadeq has mentioned throughout, unlike previous uprisings, this time there is a leader. People in Iran are calling only one name. There is that cyan and lion flag, but then there is this kind of shyness in think tanks out in the West to really confirm that. As I was explaining to an academic, it looks like you leave your hat in one corner of the room, but you look for it in another corner of the room. So they are all talking about, oh my God, the Iranian opposition is divided. Where are they? My God, look what the people in Iran are saying. It is not what Nazenin Ansari is saying outside. It is, and over 36,000, 43,000, we still don't know, have given their lives. 80%, at least 80% of the slogans has been for Shahzadeh, for Reza Pahlavi.
Okay. So I'm going to thank you so much for that, Nazanin. There's a lot there, and there's a lot to what Sadeq said. I'm going to ask you both about specific things, and if you can just respond to those specific things, we'll get to a number of subjects. Don't worry, we'll cover a few things here. First of all, just in terms of talking about mobilizing the diaspora and the conditions that we can try to change in terms of our governments and outside of Iran, et cetera. Both of you have been so active in that regard. If I have this correct, this is relatively breaking news. It's in the last 24 hours. The European Union has finally designated the IRGC as a terrorist organization. And this is something that we've been screaming about for years. Now that it's come, will this really change anything in terms of materially for protesters or international policy, Sadeq?
Yeah, so as you said, we've been calling for that for quite some time. Again, Shahzad has been calling for that specifically as well. And I personally believed, and talking to some of these people, commentators, or people who have influence in Europe, that Europe would never do such a thing. It's kind of like declaring war with the Islamic Republic. So they would never do such a thing unless they think that there's no chance that this regime would survive. And now is the moment. So since a few days ago, I think 2-3 days ago, Italy got on board. Spain was hesitating. Spain was like the last country that I would think that they would do this. But obviously the last bastion of keeping the interest of, for some reason, the Islamic Republic, where Khomeini, flew from, is France. that happened yesterday or today, and the EU immediately adopted that resolution. So implications in terms of legal implications of that, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge because the Islamic Republic has had some sort of a safe haven in the way that they operate diplomatically, legally, through third parties, through their networks, financial, and so on and so forth. That is going to be very much clamped down and something that we obviously observe in the U.S. and in Canada,
but Sadeq, it has to be, but it has to be enforced, right? I mean, I don't mean to be cynical about it, and I hope I'm wrong. But when we finally got the IRGC designated as a terrorist entity in Canada, I'm not sure that we've seen the kind of activity that we had hoped in terms of taking care of all of the friends and family and agents and connected bodies of the Islamic Republic who find safe haven here in Canada, right?
Yeah, so I mean, the legal question is complicated because a lot of these families, I mean, I've been involved in all sorts of aspects of this issue legally. So one of the downside of it in Canada and also in the US was the famous issue of the conscripts who got hit by this law because obviously, for some reason, they didn't think about making exemptions for, conscripts who were conscripted into IRGC years and years ago.
Just carve it out. Carve it out. Why is that so hard? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not. I mean, when it comes to targeting the families, some of them have citizenship. Some of them, you're right. Enforcement is very important. But at the same time, the tools are there, and we see, I think, the momentum where, the decision, the political will in Europe will move the needle, I think.
Okay.
And I obviously the IRGC, they have their own networks, informal, and they do stuff. And unless they are completely removed from the face of the earth, there's always things that they do, like any cartel, like even like any terrorist organization. But recognizing them as a proper state, as a normal government, that would have been really, an insult to the injury of the Iranian people. And that's ended because we were always afraid. In Nazenin mentioned in Women Life Freedom Movement, there were a lot of gestures and hair cutting and all of that, but they never moved towards that direction. They clearly said they're never going to do that unless there's a court decision, which was legally nonsense.
Right.
Now we know it was a political decision at the time, and it has changed now. What has changed? I think a lot has changed. Unfortunately, thousands of the blood of Iranian youth and old boys and girls had to be spilled until the Europeans decide to go on the right direction. But it has happened.
Okay,
Yeah.
Nazanin, if what Sadeq is proposing or suggesting is the case, it's a pretty big deal that the EU is now finally reframing this and saying, we think this is the time that this regime is going to be gone. Do you concur? Do you read it the same way?
Yes, I do. Certainly, there has been a shift in the atmosphere here in Europe, in Britain, and we are seeing it before during the Women Life Freedom movement. They were saying, "Oh, we do need to still have the IRGC to be able to get information and perhaps use one section against the other." I mean, the reason France, for example, I was looking into it. France has not, under President Macron, has stayed away from getting involved in anything to do with genocide or crimes against humanity, or that has been because, number one, they, just like the UK, they always said that we need to maintain our diplomatic mission there. We need to keep the channels open, and also that there are enough laws in the EU sanctions that will cover the IRGC, but also we have dual nationals in prison. That's because of the Islamic Republic's hostage diplomacy. Certainly in the last 24 hours, everything has changed. And that has a lot to do with the shift in the acceptance that this is the end for the Islamic Republic.
Nazanin, you talked about the nature of the mobilization of the diaspora this time. I feel like, in contradistinction to 3 years ago with the after the killing of Mahsa Amini, where we were mobilized, but I feel like this is very political this time. It feels not that it wasn't serious 3 years ago, but people feel very ready to try and take this to the end at this point. And something that's dominated the last 24 hours that I found interesting was this whole Huda Beauty controversy that, of course, you couldn't miss if you were in social media. And I referenced it in my opening essay about how the anger is justified, in terms of the way Iranians are reacting. But what do you think it says about how the diaspora views moral responsibility from public figures and brands right now, Nazanin?
Yes, you mentioned Huda Beauty, but there's also the controversy with Roger Waters of Pink Floyd, where he came and said, "Oh, the regime, Ayatollah Khamenei is good." And now, yes, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, he had to retract.
Right. He issued a lame apology that no one took for to mean anything. But yes, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I mean they're all saying, even with Hoda's explanation, "Oh, I'm not very expert in the matter, so you shouldn't, you should. This is not my fault. I should be better informed." Obviously, but it seems that it does make us, this diaspora activity and energy is making ripples, and the difference between 2022 and 2026 is that with Women Life Freedom, it got inspired by it and it grew. It wasn't, it just found its feet, its voice. They have had 4 years to prepare. So in 2022, when there was one demonstration that was organized in Germany, that was hundreds of thousands, they came out in Germany. It was done via the Green parties over there. It was done via the leftist parties. Whereas this time, when we're seeing demonstrations from East Asia, from Japan to Australia to Africa, all over Europe, then Canada, where you are, and the United States, actually, the European demonstrations have been really impressive. Brussels, we had the American ambassador there speaking. London, I've been covering demonstrations in London since I worked for the Voice of America in front of the embassy. There was at the time, there were only 10 people gathering in London in front of the embassy and saying, "Down with the Islamic Republic, long live the Shah." Nowadays, you see hundreds of thousands coming, motorcycle drivers, different groups. It is really impressive. And where the Iranians at home have had to retreat to indoors, their compatriot here out in the diaspora have taken the mantle, and they are echoing the cry. And that is what is making Europe change. And they are the ones that are really, because of technology, but it is one nation having found its voice together. So
Okay.
outside, inside, we're one.
Sadeq, I'm curious to get your take. I mean, if there was any takeaway from what we've seen with the Huda Beauty, it's interesting. It almost felt like a catharsis for certain folks out there, some of whom have very big platforms, who might be Iranian beauty influencers or something like that, who might not feel comfortable doing sort of political talks to camera the way you and I would, but found a moment yesterday to be able to really express themselves, and did so quite powerfully en masse. What did you make of it?
Excuse me. I mean, let me just speak from my heart, Jian, because this is not just any movement. I think this is not just any revolution. This is the only moment in our history where either we are going to have a country or we are not going to have a country. We've never had this situation, Jian, where this many people have been brutally murdered. This level of repression is even unprecedented in the rough region, which is the Middle East, at least in terms of the day count. So people have to realize, and a lot of them have realized that, listen, this is about whether we are going to have a country or not. And then we have also realized that we have some big enemies here. So the third worldists, the post-colonialists, all of those people end up really on the other side of this battle. Why? Because we are not a proper representative of their ideology.
Yeah.
Because all they care about is to blame the West. Obviously, Trump is the worst guy in the world, and the U.S. is imperialist, and Israel, and obviously Netanyahu is a war criminal, and all of that. So whatever fits that narrative, that's perfect. Whatever doesn't fit that narrative, or might work against that narrative or add complications or whatever, obviously that's not going to be promoted by them. And I tell you, and I saw you said that as well in one of your videos, I think today, and I completely agree with you. The moment the US and the West or NATO, whoever, steps foot or intervenes militarily in Iran, they will all get vocal. They will all get on the side of anti-war and protests and all of that. And so we as Iranians feel to be very, kind of alone. We only have ourselves. And if we don't get together from different ideologies, whatever it is, under one flag and one leadership, chances are that we are going to lose, lose our country. And so that is why people are doing whatever they can. It is coming from their heart, and I think eventually it's going to work.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I that's exactly my feeling, is that there are going to be difficult days ahead, as if there haven't already been. But for the Iranian diaspora, that is fighting sort of disinformation on a number of fronts in our efforts to want to try and do anything we can to help those brave souls inside Iran. That a new front of disinformation will be, as you say, as soon as there's any kind of intervention, I fear it's going to be, this is the U.S. and Israel attacking Iran, and we have to save Iran by saving the regime somehow, which of course is counterintuitive and absurd to most Iranians around the world. But it's going to be a new front that we're going to have to face, and it'll be coming from the same folks who are relatively, if not entirely, silent right now, to thousands and thousands of people dying. So it's a very strange moment we find ourselves in. Nazenin, can I bring you in on this in terms of the notion, the disinformation campaigns that we've seen out there? I've been trying to talk about our two greatest challenges in the diaspora from my perspective, are silence and disinformation. What are you most concerned about when it comes to disinformation?
Well, in the past couple of days, there have been, we received one piece of news which we published in Kayhan, London, about this اتاق internet, the room of internet in the Vezarat Irshad. It is the government body that all media, foreign media that go, they have to get their registration. They have to register. They will take them around. They will give them guides. So, but there's this one special unit with number of journalists involved and intelligence services to come up with narratives. So there is going to be a war of narrative, and we have seen a few examples, like Mr. Roqe coming and saying that yes, that these were agents of Israel and the United States. That was a narrative that came up in this room, and it was basically we saw the story come out as an exclusive in one of very, very famous American newspapers, and you can guess which one.
Yeah.
Then there is also another piece of information that came out that Iran International had, that about this document that was given to all the newspapers, that probably it was also drawn up in this اتاق internet room, that about Shahzadeh, about Prince Reza Pahlavi. And so this kind of disinformation is coming out, but this time there is one head honcho. I don't know if you know Mr. Marandi, Professor Marandi, who reminds me of Baghdad Bob. That basically during the the Iraq War, when there were tanks, the U.S. tanks coming behind him, was saying, "No, this is a battle of mother, and we're going to win." This Professor Marandi, his press credential is just to be deny, divert, and deceive. So these are all there, and we know who they are. They've got their agents outside. You can go on Twitter and Instagram and see who's parroting whatever is coming from the Islamic Republic. But this time is different because the diaspora are involved, and my hope is in this younger generation, like Sadeq, like many others who are in universities. They are in their 30s, 40s, and they're the ones who can really answer back. And so I am not at all, I am not, no, we will fight back. Okay. Don't worry about it.
By the way, it was
like you, Jian.
You said these young people. I mentioned Sadeq and not me, so I figured you saw.
No, I said you.
By the way, I thought it was fascinating that in the middle of the internet blackout, where nobody had any access to any kind of technology, internet, mobile, Professor Marandi, his internet was working fine. I guess he got lucky. That was fascinating.
With clear picture. The picture was so clear.
Yeah.
And why do you think they were stealing also, the satellite, Elon Musk's, Starlinks from people's houses so that they could spread it amongst their own people?
By the way, I should mention that when we talk about disinformation, and we say this with some sadness, I suppose, that we're not just talking about non-Iranians and media outlets and people like that. I mean, we're talking about Iranians as well, some of whom weave their way into the Western media and have voices that do not represent the mass majority of Iranians, but through the uniform they wear or the ideology that they espouse, have access to TV appearances or editorials that they get to write in big newspapers. And that's a big concern, I think. Sadeq?
Yeah, no, it is. And one of the aspects of our project to go after these people is exactly like the post-Nazi German courts. The propagandists are very much implicated. I mean, legally speaking, you cannot whitewash the same way that you cannot whitewash the Holocaust and the laws about Holocaust denial. I think we're going to need similar laws in Iran. Now we understand why those laws were in place, because they are going to whitewash this and justify other killings and basically pursue their own bloody agenda. I mean, this is about human life. It's not about some academic debate in a leftist university. Let me just tell you, like back then in 2008, when I was at Harvard, I was part of this leftist post-colonial approaches to law scholarly network around the world. And now all of them have blocked me right now. And there I understood, I mean, not initially, because, I ended up working on behalf of the Islamic Republic because I thought the real culprit is the West being, brainwashed by these leftist ideologies and trying to say, so the Islamic Republic is not the real problem, it's the West, and maybe by joining the West and normalizing situations, these people cannot be mad. Obviously, it's the effect of sanctions. So now I feel responsible, Jian. I feel responsible, even though I didn't do anything bad and I resigned in time and nothing happened that the regime could use as a result of my contributions, but I feel really responsible. And the main culprit is the reformist who basically put a lipstick on these murderers in a way that a lot of millions of people voted for these guys because they were under the impression that they couldn't be that evil, exactly like the Nazis and the Germans at the time. So we are very much responsible. The narrative is simple. These Westerners, academics, they have created the post-colonial narrative because they hated themselves. They hate everything about the West and democracy and freedom. They mock that because they never lived in a real despotic totalitarian state as we did. So in their own mind, anything that is anti-West must have something good in it. And we are the victims, and they are the bad people, and whatever fits that narrative, they're going to defend that. It has happened in the 60s with the leftists in France. It has happened in the 70s, all the way throughout until today. So for them, pro-Palestine movement is the right movement, and pro-freedom of Iran, anti-Islamic Republic movement is the wrong movement, okay? Yeah. We have Professor, not only Marandi, Professor Yazdi, the son of the real guy who brought Khomeini into Iran. He is a professor at Johns Hopkins University, fluent, like US born, very well spoken. And you know what he said? He said, these people created chaos, and you always suppress these people. And there was a beautiful mosque in our neighborhood that got destroyed by these people. So I think this is, at a certain point, at a certain level, this is a racist narrative, because if you are German, if you're French, if you're Japanese, you deserve to be rescued by the Western allies. But if you're from the Middle East, you deserve your own whatever government that you get. And if we come to your rescue, you're going to get destroyed. You don't deserve intervention. This is really, if you think about it, it's really insulting. We cannot be treated the same way that even the Kosovo or Bosnians were treated. Yeah. We deserve to be treated like the Rwanda genocide, where responsibility protect didn't exist at the time, and that massacre happened. And that is really, really shameful on the part of these so-called Westerners and Iranians who studied with these professors like me in my previous life, and they're influenced by these really anti-Iranian ideologies.
Yeah, I hear you, and you're not alone. This is something of a coming of age for some Iranians in the diaspora who, Erfan, the hip hop artist with a big platform, was on the show last week and saying, some of these people are my friends. I thought some of these people I've been following for years in the media on the left. And their narrative right now is to minimize deaths or atrocity denial, and I'm in shock and I don't know how to stop it. And so it's become a kind of I don't know if I to call it a litmus test or kind of a coming of age, as I say. And I should also mention, because you did, Ukraine is an interesting example for me, because I think I put it out in a certain a video that I did, that I remember those first two or 3 weeks after the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, the latest one, 2 or 3 years ago. The Premier League, I'm a football fan, I'm a soccer fan, the Premier League changed its flag to the Ukrainian flag. The dream would be to see the Premier League put the Lion and Sun flag in solidarity with the Iranian people who are being massacred in a way that even makes the Ukrainian intervention look small, by Russia. Okay, so a final question to both of you about intervention. You both mentioned it, Sadeq. You said something about military intervention. It's a big word, this intervention, and it seems to encompass a lot of ideas. Some people use it in my comment sections. I see to presume that we mean somebody has to come and bomb the hell out of Iran. Other people are talking about cyber intervention or getting involved in a technological way. Tell me, each of you, first Sadeq and final word to you, Nazenin, what is your most preferable form that some kind of intervention from the West, be it the U.S., be it a collective, would take? Sadeq.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Good.
That's such a tough one, Jian, because, some of the things that I say here, I don't go on and say it in Farsi, because I don't want to, in difficult times, people have had enough already, but there could be, good scenarios, bad scenarios, more bloody scenarios. And it's not all up to the US. I mean, we all love to blame Trump because he fits the bill. Yeah, he's the macho guy. He says the wrong things, and so when he doesn't intervene, we always say, "Oh, why don't you intervene?" And then when he does intervene, it's not that he never does anything right. Whereas I always, 1 year before he got elected, I said that he's only thinking about himself and what works for him. But right from the start, I said that his approach is the most, at least in terms of the alignment, is the most win-win approach for the Iranian people. Why? Because number one, he is not in the pocket of the industrial military complex. So he's not interested in bombing the hell out of Iran because of, blood money to go into these military industrial complex. Kamala Harris had some dangerous people on board. And number two, he is not an isolationist in the MAGA sense of the word as we see it today. So not everything that he's going to do is going to be 100% right, but it's a tough, very chaotic situation. Just imagine cyber war. Do you think they're going to go away with cyber war? Do you think the Islamic Republic will fall even after you target Khamenei and some heads of the IRGC? So what's going to happen to these 1,000, 5,000, whatever killers that are on the street? Somebody has to eliminate them. So my hope, and it's just a hope, is that the defections from the military, from Artesh, from the Iranian official army, are going to basically at some point join the people. There is going to be, I hope there's not going to be, but there's expected, we can expect that there's going to be some sort of, in one scenario, street war in order to eliminate these people. But at the end of the day, you cannot see a scenario where the Islamic Republic thugs would remain in power, okay? So maybe that doesn't happen in the next couple of weeks. Maybe it happens over a few months. But what the targeted military intervention does, I think the minimum would be to eliminate the main perpetrator of all of these atrocities, which is Khamenei. So that's the minimum. But that doesn't mean that automatically and immediately the regime would fall. But that should be the final aim.
But we don't. But to be fair, we don't know. I mean, if Khamenei is eliminated along with some of the top brass, maybe that sends people back into the streets, and maybe that does bring the defections. Maybe that's the chip that needs to fall. We don't really know, right? I mean, in terms of, I hear what you're saying, but I suppose it's a game of speculation. I appreciate that. Nazenin, last word to you.
Yes, I mean, I've been speaking to a lot of activists, outside of Iran and inside Iran. And basically, number one, what they're asking is that the West, whether you want to call it intervention or protection, to protect Iranians by weakening the regime's repression apparatus, the command and control, especially of the IRGC, and also to block their communications network so that orders cannot go to the Basiji headquarters in various cities. Also, another thing, what they can do is just guarantee internet access. When the regime blocks the internet for everybody, they should provide internet access to Iranians so that they can continue to communicate with one another. And then also what they can do in the first instance is expel the regime's diplomats and prosecute those who are outside for crimes against humanity. Of course, that's more long term. But definitely also, what they can do is, as Sadeq said, there is also, I think, this kind of negotiation going on with the regime at the moment. I understand from one of the experts who used to work for the Department of Defense was, comparing it to an exit strategy, providing them with an exit strategy. Just like, before the revolution, General Heiser traveled to Iran and spoke with, the armed forces. All they brought them all together, and he spoke with them, and basically that type of a talk. But as well, recognize the democratic, opposition. Certainly recognize the, in the media. There are little bits of things that even it doesn't need to be all military. The media, the international media, they should at some point accept there is a leader. Don't continue denying. Think tanks have stopped thinking. They're just acting like, track two, negotiating with the regime. Accept that Iran has changed and we are in the midst of a revolution and there is an alternative with a plan. And these are all different tactics that they can use together to bring about change, because it is very important to break the regime down psychologically and its agents psychologically, because I lived through the Islamic Revolution and I saw what they were doing and I saw its effect on those who were inside Iran, the technocrats inside, and those who had to leave and flee for their lives. So there's psychological, there's diplomatic, there is informational, and of course, the fleets that are there is also to protect, because any kind of regime that we see, it's just throwing out its last armaments, and I will not be surprised if it will not start using its missiles against neighboring countries. So this time should be the international community together. It is not only the United States, it is not only Israel, it should be also the countries in the Middle East, because there's a new world order coming. This world order where political Islam ruled not only Iran, but started its tentacles in the Middle East and beyond. And now we see in colleges and universities around the world, this has to end. And it will come to an end.
Nazenin Ansari, Sadeq Bigdeli, I know you're both very much in demand, and you both have very busy schedules. Thank you so much for making the time today. As always, it's good to have you both on the show, and we look forward to more to be continued. Merci, Varan.
Thank you.
Merci, Jian.
Khodafez.
Thank you. Khodafez. Bye.
Thank you very much to Nazenin and to Sadeq for making the time to do that panel. There was a lot of interesting conversation that just happened there. By all means, if you want to let us know your thoughts, you can email us at info@roqemedia.com, info@roqemedia.com, or you can post a comment, of course, on any of our platforms, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Apple, Spotify, etc. Not sure if you post a comment on Spotify, I'm not sure, but try. This is full time for Roqe for today. I want to thank the amazing core team who put this show together twice a week now. Super Parisa Sanjirani, Sabi Roham Meher, and Tina Farahi, the photo and video queen. Special thanks as well to our extended team, Smart Pega, Charming Kimia, Talented Anahita, Methodical Kave, and the Rising Keon for all of your help. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and continuing to share our content. Please subscribe if you haven't done so on any or all of our platforms. It's free to subscribe. You can find us and follow us on Instagram at Roqe Media. Same handle on Telegram, which is a bilingual channel. We put our bulletins in Persian is there as well. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. And as ever, Mizun Bashi.